Skills. My name is Chris Stevens. I'm a career coach with Career Catchers, and uh, I'll be facilitating the workshop. Before we get started, we will be recording this session today, so just keep that in mind. You will receive a copy of the PowerPoint presentation and the recording um, as a part of a follow-up message. So, um, thank you all for coming. So, as I mentioned, my name is Chris, and we are here. Career Catchers is partnered with the Ignite Hub over at Montgomery College to bring you these workshops every month. I'm joined here by my colleague Anthony, who works with the Ignite Hub, and my colleague Emma as well, who's with Career Catchers. They'll be running the Zoom and managing the chat. So we do want this to be an interactive presentation. If you have any questions or comments or things you'd like to share throughout, please feel free to put it in the chat or raise your hand and speak up, and we will address those as they come up. All right. So today's topic is identifying and highlighting your transferable skills. And now, obviously, if you're looking for a job or a career path, skills are going to be the things that come up, right? Skills are what you need to, basically perform an action, right? Any type of job you have, any type of career, you're going to need a certain skill set in order to be successful. Now, there are a lot of different words and things like that. We talk about hard skills, soft skills, key skills, 21st century skills, life skills, right? A lot of a lot of different things around skills. So let's just start with that. What are some examples of skills that people have on the have and everyone on this chat right now on this meeting has a skill. So what are some examples of skills that you have? I'm gonna open it up to everybody. Anyone like to share? What are some examples of skills? Feel free to put things in the chat. Interpersonal skills. Yep, absolutely. So things like communication. Absolutely. What else? That's a big one. What other types of skills do we have? Customer service. Yep. Yep. That kind of fits in some ways with the interpersonal skills. And we'll be coming back to that one for sure. Okay. Customer service, communication skills. What else? What are some other skills? Everyone on here has them.
Any niche technical skills that you might have?
Yep. Yep. Interpersonal skills and customer service are sort of what we might consider to be soft skills. Um, but right, things like technical skills, computer skills, the use of different software and platforms and things. Absolutely. Those are all types of skills. We'd probably consider those to be kind of hard skills. Yep, exactly. Things like Microsoft Office, Visio. Those are all good examples. Exactly. So, when we talk about sort of the idea of skills, it is SQL. Exactly. Yep. We are here at the Ignite Hub today, so all these sort of IT and computer examples are very welcome. Um, so, when we talk about skills, we talk about a really sort of broad, base of knowledge. And, the takeaway here that I, would like everyone to sort of get across is, everyone here has their own sort of unique skill set, um, and their own, sort of unique abilities that, that they bring to any sort of, career path or field. We are at the Ignite Hub, so I will be using primarily IT examples, but, this idea of skills and transferable skills are relevant to anyone, no matter what kind of path you're pursuing. So we sort of talked about what skills are, but what are transferable skills? So transferable skills can include everything that we've talked about. Basically, they're the competencies and skill sets that you develop through, your sort of your professional experience, your education, your life, experience in general, that you sort of take with you through all of your endeavors. Um, these are skills that are, no matter sort of what you're trying to do, they will usually always be relevant. They will be sort of valuable in any career path or job. Some of the things that people shared in the chat, things like those interpersonal skills and customer service, no matter what job you're in, there's always going to be some component of customer facing work, right? You are going to have to interact with other people. So if you're good at working with other people, that's going to be a valuable skill set no matter where you are. Um, Other things like we mentioned Microsoft Office. That's another example of a transferable skill. Most positions are going to require some sort of basic computer knowledge. And Microsoft Office is one of the most popular platforms for that. So if you're knowledgeable about Microsoft Office or even just have a familiarity with it, that's gonna be an asset to you. So these two things are examples of transferable skills. So, why are we even talking about this, right? Why is this concept of transferable skills important? Well, as we mentioned, they're valuable for, again, anything you want to do, no matter the sector, right? To bring up customer service, if you're working in retail, right, you're going to be customer facing. You're going to be checking people out. You're going to be answering questions. If you're working in food service, you're going to be taking orders. You're going to be again, answering questions about the menu. If you're in healthcare, right, that's very people focused. You're gonna be working, one on one with patients, getting to know them, building that sort of trusting relationship. And if you're in the IT field, that's also very, there's going to be that people focus, right? If you're an IT, help desk support person, you're going to be talking with people to sort of determine what sort of technical issues they're having and the best way to resolve them. So, again, no matter what job or career path, these are going to be valuable. It also means that lack of an experience isn't always a barrier to getting a job. For anyone who's in the process of trying to find a job or who, has looked for work in the past, I imagine that's most of us on here. Um, a lot of times jobs require a certain level of experience. And, it can sort of lead to the question of, well, how do I get experience for this job if I've never actually, worked in this field, right? It can feel a little bit backwards. So transferable skills is basically the answer to that question. The skills you have in your other experiences, even if it's not directly related, can still transfer over. If you can show, again, to use the customer service example, if you can show that you're, good at working with people in one field, chances are you can, you'll be able to do the same thing in another field. Um, and you know, a lot of times what will happen is employers look for potential, right? Um, a lot of times, certain job duties and procedures and things can be trained. And employers are looking for people who, basically are willing to be trained and eager to learn, right? If you can bring a good set of transferable skills, a lot of times the employers can, basically do the rest if you've got a solid foundation. So it really is important to sort of be able to highlight your, everything that you bring to the table. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll think about it a little bit and realize that perhaps, you know, you have more skills than maybe you initially thought you did. I think that's true for all of us. Uh, and so, these transferable skills are things you can include on a resume, and they're also what you want to sort of highlight in interviews and things like that. There are several opportunities during the job search where you'll have a chance to really focus on your skills and what you bring to the table. Um, and having a good mix of these skills, you know, shows your flexibility and your adaptability, right? And that can make you stand out from some of the other applicants. If you and someone else have the same certifications or education, but you're maybe a little bit better at working with people and you can sort of demonstrate that, you're probably going to be the better candidate. So I think for a lot of times, and especially in sort of more technical fields like IT, there is a pretty big emphasis on the technology part. And that is true to an extent. You do need certifications and things that always helps, but don't discount the soft skills as well, because that really can set you up for success. A lot of technical skills can be trained. It can be a little bit harder to develop the soft skills, although that is certainly possible, as we'll get into. The good news is, you know, you already have these skills. All of us have, to some extent, developed a lot of these transferable skills just throughout our daily lives, through school, through work, through our social life. Um, you know, we already have these skills, even if we don't realize it. Comments or questions on any of this so far? All right. So let's get into some examples here. Um, there's a group called the Skill Builders Partnership that has come up with a list of 8 essential skills. These are certainly not the only transferable skills, but I think this is a good list because generally speaking, these are the types of skills that show up a lot. Again, no matter what kind of job or career you're looking into. So the 8 sort of critical areas that the Skills Builder Partnership has identified are listening, speaking, problem solving, creativity, staying positive, aiming high, leadership, and teamwork. Again, there are certainly other skills out there, but this is sort of a good place to start. Um, does anyone have notice anything about this list? Maybe have any thoughts? Is there anything on here that you're surprised to see? What do you think? Any thoughts? Aiming high, what is that? Okay. Yep, we'll get to that in a minute. Um, yeah, so when you sort of look at this list, a lot of it seems like pretty obvious, right? At least that's my impression. Listening, speaking, is that really a skill? That's just something that we all do every day, right? Um, but the fact of the matter is, actually sort of being an effective listener or an effective speaker is, can be hard. Um, things like staying positive and aiming high being setting goals for yourself and having sort of the discipline and the resilience to sort of work towards those goals in spite of challenges. um you know we don't normally associate sort of staying positive as a goal, right, or as a skill. um but here it is. um so sort of interesting list, and let's break them down a little bit more. I do see the comment. The skills are also, pretty general. And the key is to have accomplishments and responsibilities to prove you have them. Yes, absolutely. The thing with transferable skills is you do want to show outcomes, right? You want to show how you've applied these skills in your work experience. That is an excellent point, and we will talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. For now, let's break these down a little bit. So, these 8 essential skills can be broken down into a few different themes, and some of these we've already talked about, right? Um, Speaking and listening sort of goes into communication. Um, so, when someone is speaking to you, do you actually understand what they're saying? Do you ask the right questions? Can you sort of um, evaluate other people's perspectives and see where they're coming from. You may or may not agree with those perspectives, but it's important to be able to sort of, see someone else's perspective. That all goes into the skill of listening, and not everybody is good at that. I'm sure we've all encountered some people who, they listen to you, but they're just waiting for their turn to speak, or they, don't sort of retain key information. So listening is a skill. Um, Similar to speaking, right? A lot of times we think of speaking, we think of public speaking, and sure, that's part of it. But at its core, it's can you make yourself understood when you speak? Um, can you present information clearly? Can you explain things? How do you sort of present yourself and um, if you're trying to persuade someone how to do something, how effective are you at doing that, right? um that would be relevant to something like sales. So that's that is a skill, right? It's not just public speaking, it's all speaking. Um, so next up we have, creative problem solving, and that encompasses the creativity and the problem solving. Problem solving is how do you complete tasks, right? Fundamentally, that's it. Anytime we do something, we have to figure out how we're going to do it. It could be a very simple task, it could be a very complex task, right? Um, but basically, how do you see problems and how do you sort of develop plans to accomplish those problems? Um, it could be as technical as, someone's computer not working and you have to do a deep dive into and work with them to fix that. It could be, you know, how do I manage my time effectively so that, both my laundry gets done and I have enough time to make dinner, right? That's a scenario for everyday life, but it's an example of problem solving. Um, Same with creativity. When we think of creativity, we often think of, art and music and writing and things like that. A lot of people will tell you, "Oh, I'm not a creative person, right? I'm not artistic." Um, but the skill of creativity goes beyond that. Again, no matter what you're doing, and this is sort of related to problem solving, we all sort of develop uh, creative ideas um, in response to the tasks and the goals that we're looking to complete. If you've heard the term thinking outside the box, that's exactly what this is. What is the best solution going to be for a certain problem? And if you can solve that, you've come up with a creative solution. So it is pretty broad. Interpersonal skills was mentioned before, and it comes up again here. We've got leadership and teamwork, right? So again, with leadership, when we think of leadership skills, we often think of, people who are managers or who own their own businesses and things like that. And sure, that's part of it. There is a very um, sort of direct correlation to sort of people management, right? You're literally in a leadership position. But that's not the only way to sort of practice effective leadership. Your title does not have to include leader or manager or CEO in order to be a leader. If you are supporting other people, even as a subordinate, that shows leadership. If you sort of model uh, effective, behavior to other people, that is being a leader, right? Setting an example for others is an example of leadership. If you're, working with a group of people on a project and you're able to encourage everyone to work together and contribute, that's an example of leadership. So it's not just a strict managerial role. Anyone can do it, and it does get noticed. It does get noticed. Teamwork is similar, right? How well do you support other people in a group activity? Um, are you able to contribute effectively and work well with others? Again, I'm sure all of us have encountered people who don't work well with others. They argue, they, maybe slack off. That's not demonstrating, good teamwork. And sometimes working in a team, it really is a skill because, you never know what kind of personalities you're going to be working with. So the ability to sort of manage that and still be effective um, is a skill that's pretty valuable. Um, and finally, we get to the self-management skills, right? There was a question about staying positive and aiming high, and how are these really skills, right? These are attitudes, these are mindsets. Um, but the point is, we're able to sort of build these mindsets and improve them, which is sort of what makes them a skill. Um, you know, in the course of our lives, again, whether that's looking for a job or something that's happens in our personal life, there are always going to be times when things go wrong. That's just being human. Um, so the skill of staying positive is what do you do when those things go wrong? Do you keep trying even in the face of setbacks? Do you look for new opportunities when one door closes, another opens? Um, how do you keep going even when things are tough? How do you sort of keep yourself motivated and maintain a positive attitude? It is certainly easier said than done. And being able to do that again is is noticed, is noticed by other people. Um, it's pretty easy to tell when someone's given up. So if you're staying positive, that sets you apart. Um, Kind of similar to that is aiming high. What goals do you set for yourself, and are you able to develop plans and stick to those plans for achieving them? We've talked about goal setting in a past workshop, and we will do so again. But do you set challenging goals for yourself, right? Um, and are you taking steps to achieve those goals? They could be professional goals, they could be personal goals, but the point is, um, if you sort of cultivate this skill of aiming high, uh, you're going to work hard, you're going to stay motivated, um, and you're going to ultimately accomplish what you set your mind to, and that's very important, no matter what sort of context, your or career path that you're looking to pursue. Comments or questions on this? I think it's safe to say that everyone on the line here um, probably exhibits a few, if not all, of these skills right here.
I did want to say something, Chris.
Go
I
ahead.
did like the fact that you did emphasize that even if you're not in the leadership role, that taking a lead, if you're doing a project with your team is important because that can show your supervisor that you do have, leadership skills. So I think sometimes we can be timid. It's like, well, I'm not the supervisor, I'm not the manager, so I'm not going to tell, Anthony what to do because I don't want him to think that I'm trying to boss him around. No, you're just trying to delegate because
Yep.
maybe you're good at that. So I think that's very important for people to understand because sometimes we put ourselves back and not really shine, allowing ourselves to shine in an area where we can because we feel, oh, I'm not in a leadership position, so I'm not going to say anything. So I think making sure that, you're, letting people know your skills and what you bring to the table, that's important. It can take you very far. You never know who's watching. So I think
Absolutely.
that's really important.
Absolutely. And that's a good point. You never know who's watching. So sort of keeping some of these skills in mind and really focusing on practicing them, you know, does get noticed. So when we started the presentation, we talked about, the definition of a skill being, um, your ability to do something, to complete some kind of task, right? Um, but another important part of a skill being a skill is that it can be developed. Um, you know, some things may come more easily to some people than others, but at some point, no matter sort of what skill you're trying to cultivate, you did have to learn it. Um, you did have to, you do have to learn the skills. And even though we oftentimes think of things like speaking and listening and staying positive as things that we just do, uh, you can improve them, right? They can be developed. You can be more effective at them. So let's talk a little bit about how to do that. Um, so, going back to the listening, um, how do you practice being an effective listener? Well, you know, really when you're listening to someone, really make sure that you are focused on them, that you're following along, and that you understand what they're saying. Um, if you don't, make sure that you ask, follow-up questions, clarifying questions. Um, give the person your full attention, make them feel like they're being acknowledged. Again, this may seem, pretty straightforward, but not everyone does this. So, make sure that you're doing that. This is a great example. You're all here at the workshop today. You're all taking in this information, you're comprehending it. Um, Attending events like this is an excellent way to develop listening skills. You're already doing it simply by virtue of being here. Um, with speaking, same kind of thing. You don't have to necessarily get up in front of an audience of hundreds of people and present on a topic. It can be speaking within a group, right? Um, if you're asking questions, sharing in the chat, that is an example of speaking. Um, you know, Try to think, are you getting your point across? Are people confused? And if so, what can I do to make myself clearer? What kind of information do I need to make sure that everyone has in order to get my idea across? And again, you can certainly do that in sort of a formal public speaking environment if you want, but it can be informal too, just talking within a group of people. Um, for those who are interested in sort of the public speaking, there are many types of groups and things like that where you can practice. Um, but yeah, it is it's certainly something you can develop in your everyday life. Um, with problem solving, again, throughout our entire day, we're solving dozens of problems. So, you know, to develop the skill of problem solving, be intentional. As you're completing a task, no matter how minor, really think through it. What steps are you taking to complete the task? What information do you need? What solutions? What are the possible solutions, and why might they or might they not work? Do you have an action plan? Again, this doesn't have to be, major projects. It can be just minor tasks, but the process of sort of thinking through it and developing a habit of sort of organizing your thoughts and your actions is kind of how you develop that problem solving skill. Creativity, very similar. Think of different ways that you can do things. Um, there may be a straightforward way to solve a problem. There may be but there may be alternatives as well. The quickest way may not be the most effective way. So, um, basically come up with new ideas and try them out. Sure, some of them may not work, but you are exercising your creativity there. Um, for leadership, I do think that starts with sort of leadership and teamwork are kind of combined here because I do think the first step to being a good leader is being a good teammate. If you are in a formal leadership position, really take a look and sort of think about how you are interacting with anyone under you, right? Um, are you encouraging them? Are you hearing their input? Uh, you know, is your team getting the work done? And if not, are there problems that you can help them with as a leader? And if you're not in a formal leadership position, again, take the time to think about, how can I encourage people to be more effective? How can I set myself up as a role model, as an example, um, to other people? That's leadership. And again, it's something that we all do every day, even if we don't realize that. Same goes for teamwork. With staying positive, again, we're all gonna face disappointments in life, but you can cultivate this skill of positivity by when something happens, think to yourself, okay, what is my reaction to this, and how can I try to turn it around? Is there something I can learn from this? Is there an opportunity maybe that presents itself, even though something has gone wrong? um, what are some other ways to accomplish this same goal? Um, really sort of thinking through that process can help you stay positive because there's pretty much always another option, even if it's not obvious at first. Um, with aiming high, again, you kind of get some of that same resilience. How do you approach your goals? You know, what sort of short-term goals do you need to have in place in order to accomplish your long-term goal? And am I good about, do I have a plan to achieve them? And can I stick to that plan? If you're doing those things, you are cultivating that skill of aiming high. Does that make sense to everyone? Um, about sort of how to cultivate some of these skills? Like there's something in the chat here. Okay, I see from Doug, as a veteran, I can honestly say that all of these skills are paramount for completing my mission. Absolutely. I'm sure you had to to utilize all of these. Um, would you like to share any specifics around that, Doug? You don't have to. But if there's anything you'd like to highlight, please feel free to share.
Sure, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great, great, great. Yeah, so I'm a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard, so we wore many different hats. So having to talk to community members and listen to them and what they had to do. Also listening to our auxiliarists, who actually the auxiliarists were volunteers that use their own equipment to help us do search and rescue for many times in Florida. I was stationed down in Florida. So if there was that, we'd have to listen to them and hear what they had to say. And then speaking to them, we had to speak to them in a specific manner rather than speaking to them in military speak. We'd have to speak to them and, come at them at how civilians talk to one another. And problem solving, of course, that's anything that's out on the water or anything that you're doing, and creativity, the ability to adapt and overcome anything that could come in your way. And then, of course, leadership. Leadership is just, I was a second class petty officer, so I was in charge of um, men and women underneath me, and then you all have to work together in teamwork. And then as far as staying positive, I guess it's like you've got to be optimistic in most aspects, but mostly you have to be a realist, especially when it comes to mission essentials and stuff like that. Getting into like we have to do this drug bust, or we have to go and help these people that are, their boat's capsizing, but you have to like let them know like you got to leave your boat. Like that's a realism. Like you have to come on board with us. You're going to have to write that off with your insurance kind of thing. So, yeah. As far as aiming high, like I guess setting goals to and sticking to achieve them would be mainly making rank, I guess, in the military. I really
Sure.
didn't see anything else other than that. So, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't mean to take up too much time. Sorry.
No, these are all great examples, and thank you so much for sharing. I mean, that is an excellent sort of real life example about how all of these, sort of come together. You did bring up a couple sort of points that I want to highlight, though. The first with speaking. Um, you mentioned sort of the jargon, right? A lot of industries have their own sort of unique vocabulary, whether you're in the military, you're in healthcare, you're in IT. There's a lot of language there that you may understand and people who sort of work with you understand, but other people outside of that particular field may not. And oftentimes we can sort of fall into the trap of using that vocabulary without realizing it. When speaking to other people and they don't really know what that means. So being aware of that um, sort of is an important part of cultivating that skill of speaking. And the other thing you mentioned around staying positive, we've sort of been defining it as, how do you stay positive and sort of motivate yourself when things go wrong? But an important part of that is also, how do you stay positive and encourage others to do so as well? Sure, it starts with you. If you have sort of an optimistic mindset, that can influence other people. But how do you part of staying positive is encouraging others to stay optimistic and keep working even in the face of setbacks. So those are two excellent points. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, moving right along here. So there was to sort of hopefully prove my point here. There's a recent survey of basically managers, and I think it was across a number of industries. But they were asked about skill gaps and skills that are lacking in the workplace. Hopefully, everyone can see this, but basically, um, of these
We can see it.
perfect, thank you.
Mhm.
So of these managers who responded to the survey, 59% said that management and task prioritization skills are lacking. 58% said management and leadership skills are lacking. 55% said teamwork is a pretty big gap in the skill set, and 39% said problem solving was a gap. So, here over half of these employers are saying that things like leadership, teamwork, and like time management and organizational skills are lacking. These aren't necessarily complex technical skills. These are the soft skills, and they kind of directly relate back to this list here. We see all of these on this list of essential skills. So having this foundation will make a difference, and people are actively seeking out these transferable skills. If you're a leader in one field, those leadership skills can apply to another one. If you're a good teammate in one field, you'll probably be able to work pretty well in a different one. Um, so these this right here is sort of why we're talking about transferable skills and why it's important. Um, so I think this is pretty relevant. Now we are here at the Ignite Hub, so I'm going to be using IT as an example. I do want to we don't have to go too in depth to these transferable skills, but I do want to just go through some of them. So this is from ONET Online, which is a great resource. It's run by the U.S. Department of Labor, and basically here are the sort of top transferable skills for for the IT field. So whether or not you're already working in the IT field or want to change careers or start a career in the IT field, these transferable skills are going to be important. So things like critical thinking, right? This directly relates to the problem solving and creativity. Um, you know, can you use, sort of good reasoning and logic to identify problems and strengths and weaknesses and things like that. Active listening. We've spent some time on listening, but are you giving full attention to what other people are saying? Are you taking the time to understand them? For someone in an IT support role who has to listen to someone describing a problem and offer a solution, this is very important. Judgment and decision making is another one. Again, all of us make decisions every day, even if we don't realize we're doing so. Reading comprehension as well. A lot of IT sort of documents and things are pretty complex. So, are you able to sort of understand and get the knowledge you need from written documents? Active learning. Now, this would probably go with aiming high, but one sort of transferable skill or attitude is this idea of being an active learner. So basically, you're always trying to learn new things. And especially with something like the IT field where technology is always changing, there are always new trends and softwares and platforms. It is very important to stay up to date with what's going on in your field and to continually learn new skills in order to be successful. And that's what the active learning is. You don't just, take a couple certifications and then you're done. No, you're always trying to learn new things. And that does come across to employers. And that's one of the big transferable skills here. So, you don't necessarily have to be actively learning IT, but you always want to be looking for opportunities to learn new things, whatever that may be. Complex problem solving. We talked about problem solving. Speaking, that's one of the skills here. And then we have things like sort of monitoring and analysis and evaluation. Now, some of these are technical, right? Measuring system performance, monitoring different types of equipment. And even if you don't have any direct experience doing that in the IT field, pretty much every industry requires that you watch some kind of equipment, right? If you work in healthcare, for instance, they're trying to switch to IT, there's all sorts of specialized, medical equipment that you would have to look out for and make sure they're working properly. So while it's not one-to-one necessarily, you still have experience, with that sort of being able to sort of monitor things that could transfer to IT. They also mentioned time management and writing as well. So again, and troubleshooting sort of falls under problem solving. So again, all of these are not necessarily complex, very complex technical skills. They're all sort of very foundational soft skills, and a lot of them relate back to this list of 8 essential transferable skills, which is why I like it. So, if you can sort of build out that foundation, a lot of the complex stuff you can learn later, especially if you have that mindset of active learning. Comments or questions on this, excuse me, on this list here? Do you think anything's missing? Does this make sense? All right. So we talked about we talked about how to develop some of those common those essential skills. Um, and there are many ways to to sort of practice effective skill building. One is work experience, right? Whether you're working now or have past work experience, the skills you learn there are things that you can transfer forward. No matter how unrelated you think your past work experience might be to your current career goal, uh, I am sure there is something that you learned that you can bring forward. The key is really just you know taking a hard look and identifying these transferable skills. There's almost always something there. Same with education and training. Obviously a great way to get skills. It doesn't necessarily just have to be formal schooling and a degree program, although that's certainly an option. But things like short-term training courses, certification courses, things like that. Montgomery College, for instance, has a great great certification programs for IT in addition to degree programs. I would recommend anyone who's interested in the IT field to check out some of those opportunities. Um, but it can also be online courses as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, Volunteering and internship opportunities are another great way to get skills. Now, a lot of times these aren't paid, but you do get the chance to learn valuable skills and to meet people who also may be able to sort of introduce you to new skills and be good connections that might further your career goals. Um, I always encourage volunteering. For one, it can certainly lead to jobs. I can attest to that. Um, but also, no matter what you're doing, you're always going to pick up some kind of skill there. Um, so, I would always, if you're not working right now or looking for something to do, I always recommend looking for volunteer opportunities as well. Free online resources are a great resource, and I can show an example of those. You can learn pretty much anything you want to online for free. Now, it is the internet. You do have to be careful. You want to make sure that the resources you are using are reputable and that the information you're getting is correct. But a lot of it is available. I'm going to go through a few different resources like that, but you can learn a lot of things. Even one of my colleagues calls it the University of YouTube, right? There's a wealth of information out there if you know where to look. And even if some of these free online resources don't necessarily result in a formal certification or anything like that, it's still building your skill set, right? You still have that knowledge that you can bring forward. So, um, there's a lot of resources out there that I would encourage everyone to check out. Um, you also skill build just in your daily life, right? Any sort of personal projects or hobbies that we have that can help build skills, especially in the IT field. A lot of times you hear about people, um, programming their own code or designing their own websites, things like that. Even if you're not getting paid for it, even if you're just doing it for yourself, that's a skill, right? In the process of doing this, you are learning something new, and you're building a skill, and you can show these projects and things to other people as part of your portfolio. Um, if you're part of some kind of community organization, whatever that may be, there's going to be some kind of skill-based work involved with that, right? Similar to volunteering. And just in general, everyday life, right? We talked about how to develop some of those 8 core transferable skills, listening, speaking. So just being aware of sort of what you're doing as you're going through your everyday life gets you in that mindset of constantly building up your skills. Uh, has anyone sort of on the line um, experienced any of these? Is there anything sort of missing from this list? Are there anything that you can point to as an example that has worked for you? What are your thoughts on sort of strategies for these kind of strategies for skill building? Chat here. Oh, okay. Sounds good. Okay, so we have a question. Um, So how do you change to another career with little leader and teamwork skills, and do you have to relearn computer skills? So it depends on what kind of job you're looking for. Um, if you're looking to transfer into the IT field, it's always good to get a refresher on computer skills. If you don't if you don't feel comfortable, there are plenty of free classes. The library offers computer skills. There are a few community organizations that offer basic computer classes. Um, and you can learn through online resources as well. I can go through a few of those. Um, and as far as teamwork and leadership skills, I think my guess is that you've probably done a little more with that than you think you have. Um, but that might that would be maybe a good thing to discuss with a coach. Um, and I'll talk more about that as well. Thank you for that question. I want to touch on free online resources for a minute. There are any number of reputable websites you can use, to learn pretty much anything you want. Some of the websites are paid, but a lot of them have free options as well. There's usually a way to filter for the free courses if you don't want to put any money down. You might be prompted to pay for extras on some of these sites. For instance, once you complete an online course, they may tell you to pay for a certificate of completion, but you don't need to do that if you don't want to. At the end of the day, you've learned the skill. You can put it on a resume. It's all good. I'm going to. So there's a few here. You may have heard of some of these. Allison.com, Skill Up America or Skill Up Montgomery. There's Coursera, there's Udemy, there's GCF Global, and there's many others. I'm going to take a brief detour and just pull up one of these websites just as an example. Here we have udemy.com. It's a online learning platform. It's a great resource. As you can see, there's a lot of paid courses, but you can find a number of free courses as well. And it's not just sort of the complex, technical skills. I put in public speaking for this example, and they have online classes for, public speaking. If you're not sure how to get started, looking at some of these online resources is a great way to do it. They're also a good resource for if you're not sure whether or not you're going to like something or be interested in it. Maybe you're thinking about switching careers but aren't really sure. Taking some free courses can be a great way to sort of judge whether or not something like that is for you. If you do want to look into some of the hard skills, and I'm just going to pull up some IT certifications as an example, you can find those on here as well. Those are the paid options, but we can also find free options too. So, whoops. For instance, here I've searched the CompTIA A+ certification, which is sort of an entry-level, IT certification that a lot of people start with when they're getting into the field. And you can see that there are, if I can get this to work, there are a number of free sort of resources that you can start with. For instance, this class here, IT Fundamentals and Computer Networking course, right? If you're new to the IT field, something like this might be a good place to start. And as you can see, websites like Udemy have topics and courses on pretty much anything you can think of. So I definitely recommend checking these out. And the links are in the PowerPoint.
Excuse me, Chris. I'd also like to interject about
Go ahead.
Udemy. If you want to pay for any of the paid courses, they usually run a sale like every other week for about 80% off. So you can get some of those $100 courses for 20 bucks,
Oh,
which is a
there
good
you go.
price.
Absolutely. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and I see Doug mentioned that PTA is a good way to get volunteer experience. Yep, absolutely. That's a great example of a community organization. So a parent-teacher association, right? If you have children in school, that involves listening, that involves speaking, that may involve leadership. It's a great way to sort of practice the skills in sort of ideally a not very stressful environment. Um, all right, so we've discussed sort of transferable skills and ways to develop them, but how do you highlight them, right? How do you make them sort of stand out to a potential employer? The first step is identifying your own transferable skills. So, if nothing else, what I want everyone to do sort of as a takeaway is to really, look back and think about your experience, your life skills, your education, whatever it may be, and really think about, okay, what skills do I have that can be transferred to somewhere else? We've given a lot of examples today, so hopefully that's a good starting point. But the first step is really to sort of realize that you have transferable skills and identify what they are. You want to emphasize your transferable skills in your resume and your cover letter. As someone mentioned earlier, uh, you know, obviously putting them on the resume is good, but really showing how you've applied them in your life, in your work, and so on, is even better, right? Showing sort of positive outcomes that you've achieved by using these skills. Maybe you led a team of 10 people, or um, collaborated with a group of people to successfully, uh, you know, finish some kind of project. Maybe you've had to give presentations, whatever it may be. What was the result there? And we'll actually have another workshop on resume writing coming up. When you're looking at jobs, don't focus solely on the job titles. A lot of times that can be intimidating, right? If you're looking for jobs, a lot of people just screen by the titles and think, okay, well, that sounds like something I could do, or that sounds like something that probably is out of probably something I can't do. I'm going to ignore it. I would recommend always trying to read the full description, because a lot of times the description will show you exactly what kind of skills and qualifications they're looking for. And a lot of times you probably have some of those transferable skills that you can apply to the position, which you wouldn't know, if you don't read the full description. So, don't if you see a job title and you think there's even the slightest chance you might qualify or would be interested, it always pays to read the full description and see how your experience matches up. It may be a closer match than you think. Um, when you are sort of highlighting your experience, you want to make sure to include all relevant experience. It doesn't just have to be paid work or college courses. Volunteering is relevant experience. Um, you know, Participating in a community organization is relevant experience. Um, taking online classes is relevant experience. So, really sort of adopt a broad mindset of where you're getting skills, and don't be afraid to include those on your resume, or to bring up those examples in an interview. And make sure you really give yourself credit. Um, an example I like to use is, I was working with someone a while back, and I think they were an elementary school teacher, and I was, starting out with them. We were working on a resume, and I asked them, okay, tell me what you do as a teacher, right? And they told me, well, I teach math to third graders. Okay, great start. What else? And they said, oh, that's really it. I teach the children. Um, and so that provided a jumping off point to a really good discussion about, well, that's an important part of what you do, but that is certainly not all you do. There's so much that goes into teaching children, right? You are developing curriculum, developing a lesson plan and a curriculum. You are, maintaining order and discipline in the classroom. You are interacting with parents. You are interacting with, the principal, with administration. You're grading assignments. There's so much that goes into that. And this person wasn't really giving themselves full credit for everything they had really done. They've really done. So, when you're sort of considering your own experience, really think about what goes into it, and really sort of break it down, and try to draw out all the skills that you use, because you might be surprised. And bottom line, you always want to consistently work on improving your skills, no matter what that is. You want to cultivate that mindset of active learning, and really just look for opportunities, because you never know, when you're going to get the chance to learn something new, and how that might pay off. I've heard of a few interviews where or a recruiter or a manager will ask something along the lines of, tell me something new that you've learned recently. Um, so if you kind of keep that in mind, right? If you set a goal for yourself of trying to learn one new thing a day, no matter how big or how small, um, that's sort of building your skills right there. Any comments or questions on highlighting transferable skills? All right. Well, with that, we'll wrap up. We're about at 1 o'clock here. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you found this presentation worthwhile. There is a quick survey which we'd love for you to do. You can scan the QR code here. It's an anonymous survey. Just takes a few seconds, and we appreciate the feedback, and we'll use it to improve our future workshops. I'm going to leave this up for just a minute here, and then I do want to say a couple quick words about the Ignite Hub, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Um, all right, I'm going to stop my share and just chat about the Ignite Hub for 1 minute. I'll put the QR code back up. So, as I mentioned, the Ignite Hub has sponsored this workshop today, and we have monthly workshops through June. We hope to see you at the next one as well. But if you're looking to start a career or change careers, especially in IT, that's what the Montgomery College Ignite Hub is here for. Now, as I mentioned, I'm a career coach, so if you are interested in one-on-one kind of discussions around this and other topics, you can register for one-on-one sessions with myself. If you go to the Ignite Hub website, which is ignitehubmc.com, there and go under programs, there is a career coaching page. So it's one-on-one career coaching. We can talk about career planning, resume building, interview prep, all the support that goes into finding a job. You can there's a flyer here. You can scan the QR code to set up a meeting. You can also click here to make an appointment. And oh, okay, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so happy to meet in person or virtually, depending on my schedule. Today, obviously, we've had to switch the format to virtual, so there won't be any appointments for today. But you can also email me directly here at ccignitehub@careercatchers.org, and we can set something up at your convenience. So the appointments for today are closed as the college will be closing early, but I am available, the rest of the, in other dates during the week. So if you are interested in that one-on-one coaching, let us know. And actually, what I will do is, and actually here's our spring workshop as well. So we hope to see you again in March for resume writing. The other thing I'm going to do is, and maybe I can just put it on here. If you can email me directly, and I'll just, actually, you know what? I'll stick it in the chat. If you want to email me directly at, where is it? Chris@careercatchers.org. I will get in touch, and we can set up a meeting to talk about your career search one-on-one. Other than that, thank you all for coming, and everyone who contributed. And if you have any final thoughts or questions, let us know before we wrap up. Oh, and Anthony, you put the link to the survey in there. Great.
Yes,
Thanks so
yes.
much.
In case anybody couldn't use the QR code, I put the survey link in there and the link to the Ignite Hub website. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all so much.